G'day guys, welcome to another edition of This Week in Footy. I'm John Donohoe, he's Peter Tseros, and what a week of footy it was. I'm up and about, the Saints won. You're a bit downtrodden this week because the Tigers lost.
They didn't do very well.
That's the way it should be as far as I'm concerned. And the mighty Saints might have another chance this week. Quickly though...
It's not going to be that way for very long, I'm telling you. Enjoy it while it lasts.
I'll enjoy it for the 1 week that it happened. So, quickly, we'll go through last week's games and also Friday night over in Perth. Josh Kennedy, 10 goals, and the Eagles, 60-point winners.
And even better, it was against his whole mob. It was against his old side. I think, what was it, if he didn't kick those, if he was playing for Carlton and Carlton kicked those 10 goals, they would have won by 2 points or something stupid like that.
I think what that was is Carlton officially beat Josh Kennedy. He lost to Carlton by a point. I think that was the thing going around. But Carlton can take that if they want to. But they didn't get the 4 points, unfortunately. Luke Shuey was quite good. I think he had 30 possessions. But I mean, the talk of the town was Kennedy. Judd was probably Carlton's best player, though, in all fairness. And he was obviously part of that Kennedy trade. But how do you see that? How did you see that? Is it equal now, do you think, that trade?
I think it's equal. Judd had the early form and Josh Kennedy took it after that.
Obviously, Kennedy's
Chris Maston, hang on. Chris Maston is another player that came out of that...
Correct.
That trade. And you know what? He hasn't been a bad player as well. Very underrated. A regular 20-plus disposal getter as well. He's a very good player as well. A lot of people don't talk about him when they talk about that trade. But no, he's been good too.
Absolutely. Nick Nat-Nui's in some career best form as well. I don't know if you watched the game, but did you see the first goal of the evening? Just roved his own tap and ran into 50 and just.
How many times has he done that over his career?
Jeez, it looks good though, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I wish he was at Richmond.
And he's taking up the #1 ruck role off Dean Cox. We'll move on now. Unfortunately, we've got to talk about Richmond and the Western Bulldogs. Bulldogs were just too strong.
Yep, no, they were. Credit to the Dogs. They played fantastic. They were absolutely on fire, and you know what? To be honest, they deserved to beat Richmond. They really did.
Sorry, Bontempelli had 27 disposals for the Bulldogs. Alex Rance had 28 off the halfback, off the playing fullback basically for the Tigers.
He's always been capable of doing that. I think his first career game when he was 19, he had 19 disposals. So again, he's a very good player and all Australian last year, and he'll be going for it again this year. Hopefully Richmond can get back some of their stars, and especially in Deledio, and make a bigger impact this week.
They take on the Lions this week, so it'll be an interesting game. We'll talk about that one again later. We'll move on now. 10 goals in a row sunk the D's. They were up a fair bit at half time. They did not. They scored 1 goal after half time, whereas GWS scored 13 goals. That's unheard of. I've never heard that happening before.
It's the signs of a team that aren't experienced enough together. They haven't gelled. They're still a relatively young side, Melbourne, and let's be honest, they thought they'd won it. They thought it was in the bag. We're going to go home with the win, like last week.
They performed pretty well last week, but it was disappointing to see them come out and show that this week against a pretty young side. But full credit to GWS. They're going to be scary good in a few years. I
told you they're going to be pushing that the 8 to 10 game win this year. You didn't think they would. I think they will, and you know what? They're looking decent.
I tell you what, though, Adelaide are probably the most informed side in the comp. They sit on top of the ladder, so who could argue with that? They took on Collingwood, and they got the job done by 33 points. Pretty good effort in the end. They were up by it looked early on like they were going to beat them by about 100. Collingwood clawed their way back, though.
They did. At the same time, I think Adelaide also stopped. They put a bit of brakes on their form. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't want to get any injuries. They just wanted to get the 4 points. I don't know. But at the same time, alarm bells.
Absolutely, it is. And Collingwood, they sit in that precarious position now. They're 1-1. They take on the Saints this week. If they lose that, it could be panic stations for sure. But still early in the year, and Pendlebury, he's still performing quite well.
He is. He's a genuine star, and I think he'll be up there around the best and fairest as usual.
Absolutely. We'll move on now to probably the most exciting game of the round. St Kilda beat the Gold Coast, and what a sight it was. 28 points. Josh Bruce came out and kicked 6 goals. I don't know if can you see the smile on my
I can
face?
see it. I'm not even looking at you, and I could feel the smile.
The mighty Saints came out. Beautiful, beautiful work. And if they play like that every week, they can test some sides. David Armitage had 34 disposals. Ablett was pretty well held in the end for the Gold Coast. He didn't do all that much, and we've heard now that he's out for this week's game.
Yes, and indefinitely as well. The Gold Coast tipped in to make finals. A lot of people tipped in to make finals, and I think a lot of people are saying that they might not. Their form over the past 2 games have been shocking. Let's be honest, they had 2 very winnable games. They had literally the two best ranked games. They had the best fixture for the first two games.
They could have absolutely taken full charge of the AFL.
They didn't, and it's disappointing to see. Hopefully they improve as the year goes on.
Absolutely, I think they will. They're a young, emerging side, but without Hablett, geez, it could be tough because their record without Hablett is very poor.
I'm sorry, but they're not that young anymore. They're actually entering that mid-20s, early to mid-20s bracket. They should be performing better than this. That you can't rely on one player to win your games, and you know what? It's showing. It's showing.
GWS have overtaken them now, probably as developing into a better side.
Even on the ladder, it's not probable.
Expansion sides, I think GWS are probably performing better at the moment. I was really excited to see the Sydney Swans take on Port Adelaide, and what a game it was. The Swans were relentless. They didn't let Port Adelaide get any space. And it wasn't the Port Adelaide we came to know and love last year. They weren't running, they weren't carrying, and they weren't given any time when they had the ball. Sydney were ruthless.
They were ruthless, and they're a good side. They're a genuine side. Port Adelaide, I reckon, wait till the second half of the year, and they're going to start killing it. They're going, I reckon, their second half of the year. That's when they're going to enter some real solid form. And they did that last year when they slipped away midway through the year, and they hit home hard at the end. And I think they'll do it again.
And Josh Kennedy keeps putting his name forward to win his first Brownlow medal after another 30-plus possession game. He's on fire. Buddy Franklin kicked 3. Some of his pressure acts as well were awesome. He's in some really good form. I can't say, the Swannies are going to be hard to take down this year. They had a little lapse in the first 3 quarters last week against Essendon.
Still got the points.
Oh my, they're ruthless. They want to avenge this premiership loss to Hawthorn last year. They're going the right way about it. They take on GWS this week. They could go 3-0. They've got a pretty handy fixture as well. So beware of the Sydney Swans juggernaut, I reckon. Next game is Geelong taking on Freo. And Freo were pretty good. They've taken all their opportunities this year. They're 2-0. Played really well against Port last week and dominated against Geelong. Geelong, I'm not sure really where they're at the moment. They sit at the bottom of the ladder. But Nat Fyfe is an out-and-out star.
People are saying that Geelong, picking up Mitch Clark will, take that extra step and really keep them in the finals. 2-0, not looking good, but 0-2, not looking good, but at the same time, don't write them off. They're still a champion side.
10 years since was the last time since they were 0-2.
Still, I reckon they can still make an impact this season.
I do as well. As you said, don't keep a champion side down. They'll get Bartel back this week. They'll probably shuffle the side around. Might come back in as well, but they'll get there over the middle of the season as well. So don't count them out just yet. Hawthorn and Essendon, what do you reckon of this game? Brilliant. No one expected Essendon to come out and win this, and full credit to them. I underestimated them at the start of the year. I didn't think they'd be doing that much just because of the looming drug saga. It's all over now. They performed well last week, and geez, did they put it up to Essendon this year. And Carl Hooker was the unsuspecting hero.
Good on them. They got the win. They got the win.
2 points.
It's good to see. And, again, Hawthorn, fantastic effort as well. And you know what? I told you, Essendon are going to be a top 8 contender, and it looks like they're still going to be that top 8 contender. So well done to them.
Absolutely. Last game of the round was North Melbourne taking on the Brisbane Lions, and did North Melbourne come out and show a bit more ticker than they did last week against Adelaide. They beat up on the Brisbane Lions. I think it was 85 points or something like that. Nick Del Santo's the only issue. He's got a bit of a hamstring injury, but Todd Goldstein continues to put his name up as probably the premier ruckman in the comp, up there with Shane Mumford.
How good was Jared Waite?
Oh yeah, 7 goals, Jared Waite. That's correct.
That's right, and there were North Melbourne fans. I saw it on the social media. They were giving him a lot of rubbish for his game the week before. They were praising him after last week.
Absolutely, they sure were. But what do you reckon? Can North challenge now in the next few weeks?
I think they can. I genuinely think they can. It's going to show how good they are over the next few weeks.
They take on Port next week, so it's going to be a tough task. Let's quickly rattle off the first few games.
Now I want to talk about this one.
You want to start?
I want to start this one.
Okay.
All right, St Kilda take on Collingwood this week on Friday night.
At the MCG.
You guys have no chance. Yeah, I'm sorry. No. Collingwood's form has been up and down. They haven't played a 4-quarter effort this season, so I think St Kilda actually have a chance to win, to be honest. Mm-hmm. If they go out the way they played last week, St Kilda are definitely in the running. I don't think they will win, and I don't think it's going to be by all that much as well. I think Collingwood will win just.
I think if St Kilda bring that pressure that they brought last week, they're definitely a chance, like you said. But I think the one stumbling block for the Saints, they don't play at the MCG all that often. Collingwood, obviously, it's their home ground, so it's a lot bigger and a lot wider. So, but gives Nick Rowald a bit more space to run into. So we'll see how we go. I'm sticking firm. I think we're going to win this one. To all you Collingwood supporters out there, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. Carlton take on Essendon at the MCG. This will be a cracker, but I think Carlton are going to go 0-3.
I agree. I agree 100%. Essendon's form have been actually quite good. They should have beaten the Swans. Let's be honest, they should have beaten the Swans. And then they go out and beat Hawthorn. Their first two games were against the grand final sides of last year. And they played pretty well. They were neck and neck with the both of them. They'll thrash Carlton if Carlton go out the way they played the last two games. If Carlton improve, it might be a bit closer. But I think Essendon will win quite firmly. I
agree. I've said it time and time again on this show. Carlton, I'm not sure where they're at. Well, I might have gotten a better idea of where they're at the moment because they're a rabble. They're a rabble over the last 2 weeks. Essendon, they've surprised me to no end. They'll come out. You're right. They'll flog Carlton here. They will absolutely flog Carlton. Their run and carry will be too strong, but they've got the will and the want to win. And I might have underestimated them. They'll make finals now. I'm changing my mind. They'll make finals on the back of that performance against Hawthorn.
Just on the back of the performance in round 2, they're going to make finals.
I might come out in 3 weeks' time and say when they've lost 3 in a row and say that they're not going to make the 8. But who knows?
No matter the way you go, you're going to get every tip right because you change them from week to week.
Adelaide take on Melbourne, and look, if Melbourne play the way they did last week, Adelaide are absolutely going to flog them. It's at the Adelaide Oval, and I think Tex Walker is going to have a big game. I was speaking to you off air. You were helping me a little bit with my Supercoach side. I had to get rid of one. And it was toss-up between Ablett and Franklin and Walker. And you and I both said Tex Walker. He's in for a big week. He didn't have a great week against Collingwood.
He didn't have a great week, but he's going to have a week this week. And I'll be very surprised if he doesn't. Melbourne, you've showed great improvement. You've played a great game against Gold Coast and a good half a game in round 2. But unfortunately, you didn't come home with the 4 points. But at the same time, I'm sorry, I don't think Melbourne are going to get anywhere near Adelaide. They have to be the informed side this year.
Well, they're on top
so far they are.
Yeah, let's rattle off these last 6 games as quick as possible. Sydney take on GWS, Battle of the Bridge. GWS knocked them off round 1 last year. I can't see Sydney losing with the pressure they brought to Port Adelaide last week. Cannot see the Swannies losing this. GWS look good. They look improved, but not enough to beat the Swans. Correct. North Melbourne take on Port. Clutch game for both sides. Port, if they lose this, will go 0-3. North Melbourne, they're 1-1 at the moment. Really, this will show where both sides are at. It won't be panic stations just yet for Port, but it'll be getting there if they get to 0-3. I'm tipping an upset. I'm tipping North. That's a tough one, but I think Port will just scrape in. North Melbourne, they're going to be in the hunt all the way, but Port Adelaide need to get a win on the board. Mind you, I still think Port are going to finish top 4. I'm just tipping North Melbourne this week. No, I agree. I think both are going to end up top 4, remember? Correct. Now, Brisbane take on Richmond. The last 11 times Richmond have played Brisbane, they've beaten them, including 4 times at the Gabba, and they'll need to win another one here at the Gabba. You look a bit nervous. I'm nervous because I don't know what Richmond's going to pop up. We lose the games we should win. We win the games we should lose. And it looks like we should win this one. So it looks like who knows what we're going to throw out there. Kane Lambert's out with a shoulder injury. It looks like Deledio might return. So that'll bolster the side a bit. I saw a stat the other day that Richmond play very poorly and have lost 90% of their games. Not 90%, 80% of their games without Deledio. Well, in all fairness, I think he's only missed about 15 games in the 10, 11 years that he's been at the club. Correct. So, we've also lost a lot with him as well, to be honest, in that time. But he tends to be the X factor. He does. We saw it last year when he came back against Geelong. We almost got the win there. He is a genuine player, and he was a very good player to pick up at number 1. And still a great player. Absolutely. I'm tipping the Tigers though up there. I know who you're tipping, so we'll move on. I can't say the Hawthorn Footy Club losing 2 in a row. As good as the Bulldogs have been in the last 2 weeks, cannot see Hawthorn losing this one. They'll reconvene over the next week. For all he's out, they'll have plenty of cover for him though. But the Hawks for me in this one in a tightish affair. I agree. The Bulldogs have been the improved side of the year so far. Definitely the most improved side of the year so far. Everyone tipped them to end up bottom 3. I don't think they're going to do it anymore. They've shown something. They've shown fight. And you know what? I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think.
but the Hawks will
Game
win.
enough to tip the Dogs?
No.
Now, not many people would have thought that the Cats are sitting on the bottom of the ladder with no wins. It's been 10 years since that happened. Gold Coast aren't far behind them, though. But I think getting Bartel back this week and Motlop, and as we said earlier, Ablett is now out for an indefinite period of time to rest that shoulder. I think it'll all be too much for the young Gold Coast side. But you were saying before, they're not that young anymore.
No, they're not. They're not that young anymore. They're getting into their their early to mid 20s. They should be performing. One player does not win you games, and I don't care how good that player is. He cannot possibly be that important to lose you games or win you games. Yes, he's a game winner. We know he's a game winner. We know how important he is, but it is no excuse to lose games.
Absolutely.
It's no excuse to lose maybe the big games, but to lose week in, week out, you're going to need to show more than that. Everyone tipped you to be a final side. No one is a final side with just one player.
Whack. There you go.
Just saying.
Cop that. It'll be huge if they can come out and show a bit and beat the Cats without Gary Ablett, but I can't see it happening just this week. West Coast take on Fremantle in the Derby. Quickly, we'll get through this. If Josh Kennedy kicks another 6 or 7 goals, West Coast will win. But I think Freo, they're on the rampage and they're taking out teams left, right, and centre. Nat Fyfe's a start. They're getting the best out of Pavlich and McFarlane in probably their last years. So I reckon Fremantle will be too strong here. They'll go 3-0, and who knows? The sky's the limit for the Purple Haze. Could they go all the way? Who knows? But West Coast, not far off, showed a lot on Friday night against Carlton. Still got a very good midfield, but I can't see them winning this.
West Coast take on Freo. It's going to be a tough one for both sides because West Coast are in good form. Last week, they killed it. They actually killed it. And it wasn't just Kennedy. It was the whole side. The whole side did well. I think the Eagles will be very close. I think Fremantle will win. But at the same time, if West Coast do that consistently, that effort, they will, potentially push for finals. And I hope they can get that level of consistency again.
Thanks for watching This Week in Football. That's all we got time for. John Donohoe, Peter Tseros. Until next week, good luck to your team. Go the Saints.
Go the Tigers.
See you then.
Fairly well.